What's going on? It's your boy Masta B here live in the MMB Radio Studios with the MMB Radio Podcast. No topic is too big or too small. We talk about them all. And I want to welcome in a woman who has taken time out of her day in this crazy, hectic world that we're living in right now to talk to us. She's an adult entertainer and overall just a really chill, cool, sexy person. Miss Katie Kush. Katie, what's going on?
Hi, not much. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you for taking time out of, like I said, you would say busy day. I don't know if I should say busy. It's more like hectic days and hectic life that we're living in right now. And
I was gonna say, honestly, it's like I'm not really doing much in this.
You would like to be busy, so... right?
Yeah. I'm like, this is something I needed.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, it's more of like a stress reliever and anxiety reliever, with this whole COVID-19, coronavirus, whatever, the Chinese virus, as the president likes to call it, all these politically incorrect things that people are saying. And I'm hoping that after all these podcasts that I've been stacking up and racking up in this week talking about this stuff, that I hope in like a year or 2 years or, hopefully even 6 months from now, we can listen back to it and say, wow, that was really crazy. Like that we were going through all that weird shit and,
like that really happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Y2K. It's like when Y2K was happening, everybody was freaking the fuck out. And it's just like when it happened, it was like, yeah, still lights are still on.
Isn't that crazy? And it just kind of disappeared too. Like we don't ever talk about it anymore.
I mean, and then I guess I'm kind of showing my age, because I was around for Y2K. But
I remember that. I remember I was still in like middle school, I'm pretty sure, or just getting into high school.
Yeah, I was about the same. It's just like I was just kind of like finishing high school, and it's like Y2K is like clock streaks 12, and you're waiting for like TV lights and everything go off, and it's just like. Everybody says Happy New Year, and you're like, all right, everybody get ready. It's going to say Happy New Year, and shit's going to end. Mm-hmm. It's like lights are still on. Like Dick Clark was still on my TV screen. I'm still looking at Times Square, and like the phone starts to ring. It's like, hey, is your power on? Well, you fucking called me, right, dude? So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So,
it's so weird.
Hopefully we can laugh at this later on. But unfortunately, to not make
it's not a laughing matter right now.
It really isn't. Yeah, there are people who have, suffered and who have passed away from that, and definitely do not want to make light of that. And
no, not at all.
Especially I just want to take the moment just to thank all of the people out there, the essential workers and the first responders and the doctors and nurses and everybody that are out there trying to make sense of this shit when what is there to kind of grasp onto right now. It's kind of like
when we can't really make sense of any of it.
Exactly. You're kind of like walking through like a foggy situation. You're just like, I don't know what's going to happen.
My mom actually called me the other day. So my mom came down. My family we have an annual Vegas trip. And since I live here, they came down right before everything started closing. And she went home and she said her first day back, she was literally put on as a person to watch over the masks and the gloves because of the way they were being taken and used. And she was like, that's literally all I did all night long was make sure all of our masks and gloves were stocked and that no one was taking them without permission.
It's crazy to see these videos just a week or two ago, spring breakers, and even today. I mean, there's still images and videos of people that are just like not staying the fuck home. It's like seriously,
right?
It's just like mind blowing to me. Like I can only watch so much of the news because when I see these images, I get so agitated and frustrated because these people. I'm like, what point don't you fucking get, people?
Right.
Like we're out here. I'm in the Philadelphia area, and we just had up in New York, one of the recovery ships come into the New York harbor, and like the images are showing on CNN and like MSNBC and on local news of people just like. All running out to see this ship in person, and they're all together, literally like shoulder to shoulder. And I'm like, really? Is it really worth all that to see a fucking ship? I'm watching it just as clear as day on the fucking TV screen.
Exactly. That's crazy.
And then I said, so I shout out to all those people that are trying to do the right thing,
Yeah.
And they talked to a doctor that was in Queens. And the reporter asked her, like, what advice would you give to people? She's in there, like, in full garb, like, mask, gloves, and everything, like, all, she's a doctor. She's in the hospital. And she didn't say the word, but she was just like, people stay the F home. She's like, stay
Right.
the F home. You know what I mean? It's just like when people get real and start, talking like that, and it's just like the professionalism, and it's just like, I'm a doctor and I'm being interviewed for a news segment. I don't want, she didn't use, the word fuck, but she said F. It's just like when people
Mhm.
start like going out of character, it's just like, that's like, it should be a wake up call. But,
Mhm.
but what are, like,
People just don't get it.
they just don't. They really do not. But like, what have you been doing? I said, an adult entertainer. We want to talk about the lighthearted stuff and get into some, fun stories today. But
Yeah.
what have you been doing since everything has happened? Clearly, you're not shooting content.
No.
So like, what
Our
is?
industry actually kind of put like a shutdown on it, stating like do not be working, none, don't even do content. They basically stated that all you should be doing is creating content with people who are in your home if you have that person, but if you don't, then basically you need to stop all production. Luckily on my part, honestly, I went and got surgery right as all of this was happening to get my tonsils removed. So it kind of all happened at the same point where when we first went into quarantine, it wasn't really quarantine for me. I
Mhm.
was recovering. So I was at home anyway, not doing anything, just waiting for my throat to heal. Now that I'm getting on the edge of like being okay again and actually being able to eat and do things, I won't lie, it is pretty hard to stay home. Like I told you, I did go on a nature hike today, but I do agree people need to stay home, but I also agree that being outside is some, and for some people with mental disorders as well, like you have to get outside and get some sun or get some natural freaking fresh air, you
Yeah,
know?
totally.
And so today was my first time going outside in probably 2 weeks to go on a hike. And I went with another girl in the industry, but there was hardly anyone really out, so it still was social distancing. We were
But
just out
that's
in
different when
nature.
it's like you and like one other person. It's
Right.
it's it's not like you're
Instead of
going.
shoulder to shoulder waiting for a ship to come on the dock. Like, yes.
Yeah, it's not
It's
you and all
completely
your
different.
Twitter followers and Instagram
Right.
followers like in one big giant massive group, doing
Right.
a fucking
Yeah.
flash mob.
But it was nice to finally get outside. But other than that, if I'm not doing anything nature wise, I'm watching TV. I started reading a new book that a fan got me because they know I love the Shawshank Redemption, and
Hmm.
Stephen King actually has a book called Different Seasons with 4 different novels in it, and one of them is the Shawshank Redemption. So I started that book, and it's honestly amazing. Like I thought I loved the movie, but I love the book even better, which is natural. Most people say that's how it goes.
And it's crazy. It's like I'm looking currently like at a pile of DVD movies that I'm like I've had this movie for like I don't know 10 years and I've never taken a shrink wrap off of it. It's
Right.
probably in the 3.99 bin at Walmart right now.
And now's the time to unwrap that movie.
Yeah, I probably paid full price for it, which it's funny not to go off topic about it. I was saying the other day I'm watching just watching television and you're seeing commercials for like movies that are about to come out. You're like, how the fuck is that going to happen? The movie theaters are
Right.
closed. And I just
Actually,
noticed,
I heard that they've been putting them on stream
yes,
sites instead, which sucks
yes.
because we're gonna go back to the real world, and is anyone gonna use a movie theater anymore? Which is kind of sad.
Exactly. So it's just like, do they stop doing the like streaming part once shit gets, back to normal?
Right.
And then it's just like, how many people like have like technology where if they're streaming it, they're recording it, like if I'm buying it,
Right. And downloading it.
if I'm buying it on demand, what's
Yeah.
stopping me from just hitting the record button as I, order it,
Right.
And the
I
first thing,
also did see like a little article though that someone was like maybe drive-in movies will become a thing again, and I think that would be really awesome if the drive-in movies would become a thing again.
first drive-in movie was right in this area. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that'd be really
And
cool.
we had some in Arizona, and it used to be something that we would do for like our birthdays, and I honestly kind of miss that. Like we would just we had a truck,
Hmm.
so we'd fill the truck with a blow-up mattress and all the blankets, so it's just like a big puddle of cuddling while you watch movies. That'd be awesome.
And it's crazy. Like I said, the first thing I noticed was the Trolls movie because I kept seeing for some reason I kept seeing this commercial for this new Trolls cartoon movie. And I
Mhm.
don't know how long they've been doing it, but I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention. But I really kind of noticed it last night when it said, in theaters April 10th, which clearly is, nobody's going to be able to go to that,
Right.
or on demand. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of new and different, So it's going to be
Hmm.
interesting to see what things change in our world since all this has happened.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a crazy different change for sure.
And I was saying to a guest that we had on earlier in the week about content that they're not able to shoot with, like, companies, different production companies, and
Hmm.
how, and then she says, well, I'm shooting content for my OnlyFans, and that's kind of like where I've been doing. That's how I'm making money right now because I'm not able to shoot through
Companies.
companies. And I was like, I wondered, and I'll get your feedback on it. Do you think that that's
Hmm.
going to kind of change the game a little bit? Like, if, I mean, clearly, like, a lot of people are out of work right now, so people don't have the income to, buy a lot of OnlyFans subscriptions, or, pay X amount of dollars for like a little short 3-minute clip. But if
Hmm.
talent is seeing that they're able to make their own money doing OnlyFans
Hmm.
and making enough of it, like, what is going to attract them to want to work with production companies? So, like, production companies are
So,
going to have to make a bigger offer to people, I would assume.
so honestly, that's kind of funny you asked that question because we were all kind of already made not the shift was already kind of happening before all of this started going down. Um, to the point where like it's I was talking to a new girl who just kind of got in. She's probably been in closer to 8 months now, and I had my OnlyFans and like my many vids and stuff like that for a bit of like closer to a year, and or a little over a year. And her and I were talking, and I was like, if you think that you could make a living just off of the film industry, like mainstream film industry, then like you have another thing coming. And she was like, what? And I was like, you cannot just make a living off of porn. And she was like, why not? And I'm like, so we were already kind of in that moment where we had to make the switch already, not only just because like that's where technology is going, but because it kind of is, it's a little bit harder to be in the industry than people think it is, because the production company has to want to shoot you. You know what I mean? You have to be
Hmm.
appealing, and at some point some people for whatever reason just die out. And so really it was either try really hard and make it in the mainstream industry with production companies, or you just do your own content. So I was already kind of focusing more on my own content for that fact. But now that all of this is happening with the virus and everything, people are kind of realizing like, oh shit, I need to start my own content now as well. Um, and I definitely think it's going to make it, like you said, harder. Production companies are, no one's going to want to stop shooting mainstream film, even if they're making their own on OnlyFans, because either way it goes, both of those could end with the snap of our fingers.
Hmm.
Technology could end at any point without us knowing.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I feel like no matter what, both of them are always going to be there, but it for sure is going to bring up, like, people who aren't even in the film industry are creating OnlyFans accounts because they don't have anything else right now.
Hmm.
So I
You can
definitely
only
think,
TikTok so much.
yes, exactly. You can only do so much with that before they start even kicking you off. So I've already been deleted from TikTok once, and I barely even posted anything bad.
Hmm.
So I definitely think it's gonna bring up the fluctuation of OnlyFans and people creating their own content, and people are gonna want to do it more. But once the virus stuff is over and we're allowed to go back to filming, I could guarantee a bunch of those people are gonna give up on their OnlyFans. Not maybe completely, but it's not gonna be as, they're not gonna be as into it as before, because they're gonna go back to film and remember how much money they made from that.
And it's
But
ironic that you say people that are creating OnlyFans because they have nothing else to do, and even people that are not even in the adult industry are creating
mm,
OnlyFans. I have a DJ friend who, I don't know if she was serious or was like half joking or whatever, was talking about creating an OnlyFans, and I'm just like, you're putting out these free DJ mixes for people to
uh-huh.
listen to, and I'm like, in all honesty, I'm like, what's really stopping you from creating an OnlyFans, and then people subscribe, even if it's a free account, and just say, hey, every mix that I provide for you to listen or
Right.
download is $5.
Right.
Like you're
I
putting
mean,
out free content.
that's essentially what OnlyFans is for. It's just for people's fans to go and follow them and have a monthly subscription. I mean, I'm not knocking people who aren't in the industry for doing it. Sometimes it does frustrate me, I won't lie. Especially when I see people who used to like call me out for like I went to high school or whatever with they're starting to start OnlyFans. That part bothers me.
Hmm.
But I saw Allison in Wonderland. She's a DJ as well. She tweeted and she was like, "What if I just made a OnlyFans account, but instead I DJ?" And it's like that's what it's for.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's
somewhere
just for
along the line,
fans.
people think that, OnlyFans was like a porn site. And I'm
I think
like,
that's because maybe that's just what it started out as. Like it
hmm,
used to be an app through Apple or whatever,
hmm.
and they ended up having to ban it because they found out that it was being used for adult work.
And
And you can't apparently have an app for an adult work through Apple.
it's like, and correct me if I'm wrong though, but like, was OnlyFans when it was created, was it like with the intentions for like the adult industry, or did the adult industry just kind of just like take to it and it just kind of got that?
Now I don't know the real answer because I am newer into the industry and OnlyFans was already started by the time I got in. But someone did tell me that it was started for the adult industry,
Okay.
but they lied about it. Someone was telling me that they lied about it to Apple and stated that it's not. But when Apple found out that it was only being used for adult entertainment, then that's when they decided
I was gonna
to
say, because all I've
stop it.
ever associated it with was, adult entertainers using it, but I was always
Right.
curious. I'm like, was that like the intentions of like the creators of it? Was that it was supposed to be used for adult entertainers, or did they just kind of just, take to it and it just kind of, obviously OnlyFans gets a cut or a percentage somewhere. They're not going
Yeah,
to tell
yeah.
people, oh, well, that's not what this was for.
Right.
I have seen people tweet things like, like you can't solicitate on OnlyFans, stuff like that of that nature. So I'm like, I don't know what the whole OnlyFans, how that was all set up, but
I feel
it's.
like it was probably most definitely started for the adult entertainment industry.
Mhm.
But of course, now that we're getting deeper into it, I definitely think it's what the name should be. Like it's OnlyFans. It's for people who have fans. So a DJ should be able to use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's if it was for something just strictly porn, they
Right,
probably would
right.
have named it something like, XXX fans or something, or something that gave away that it's
Exactly.
like what it is. And who
Exactly.
and who knows what all these like regular folks just signing up for accounts and creating content on there of all kinds of different things. I mean, like seriously, like what's really stopping from like me to create an account and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna do a cooking show on there, and I'm just gonna
You
do
could.
videos, like what's,
Right.
so it's weird,
I
like I
was even
said.
telling I was even telling my photographer friend the other day because he works through the industry and of course he's been also laid off because none of us are shooting. And him and I were kind of talking about how like yeah, he's good for the next few months, but if it takes longer than a few months, then he doesn't know what the fuck he's gonna do. And I was like, well, dude, why don't you have an OnlyFans?
Hmm.
And he's like, well, I've thought about it, but it's just like, will I even get traction? And I'm like, you are one of the best photographers in the industry. You have all of this content and you do a lot of, he does a lot of his content. Like when him and I shoot film together, he does not charge me to do whatever it is photography. The other day we did I had an idea to do a dance video because people have been wanting me to do more, that I was like, do you want to shoot it? And he was like, yeah. And he didn't charge me anything. So I'm like, dude, you have all this content. Start an OnlyFans and start posting it. Like instead of just Instagram, try and make money off of it for a monthly subscription. I think you'd do very well.
Yeah.
So it made him, he was like, I actually did open an OnlyFans. Now I'm just trying to map out how I want to do it because some people like are strategic about what they do on OnlyFans.
Yeah. And it
So I
shows
was
like
like,
the
that's
the
good.
humbleness of some people, you know what I mean? Like I'm probably like, not to toot my own horn, like I'm kind of like the same way. You know what I mean? Like I just,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm so humble to be happy to be doing, podcasting. People have told me, why don't you put the podcast and like charge people to download it? And I'm like,
Right.
it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but then like that humbleness part of me and the conscience kicks in and I'm like, that's so fucking bougie to do that. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna charge somebody, like if I was to charge somebody to listen to this podcast right now, it's just like, okay, so what am I giving Katie, from it? Like, and I don't want,
Right.
like, to me it's like a slippery slope, you know what I mean? Because you don't want people, guests that are like, well, what the fuck? Like you're making money off of me, and then some people might not give a fuck, and some other people are, are gonna gripe and
Oh, some
complain.
people will most definitely care. I mean, I understand where you're coming from completely because that's true. But when it comes down to us being in a hard time, such as we are in now, I feel as if your humbleness kind of has to go not completely out the window, but just a tad out the window. Because, like, yeah, I understand what you mean. It might be bougie, but at this point, how are you going to make money? You know,
Yeah.
how are you going to survive? So it's kind of like,
You kind of have to be selfish a little bit
oh,
when you're
just a
probably,
tad.
yeah, when you're normally
Just like I
not.
was saying earlier, I hate telling people, like, I understand people aren't working right now, and I hate having to tell people, like, sorry, no, I don't have a free link for you just because you don't have money right now. And it even hurts my heart a little bit because I'm like, I totally, completely understand what boat you're in, but then how am I making money? How am I making my living? That means then I don't have a job either. So it's
Mhm.
like a double-edged sword, kind of.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I'll tell a quick story, and I've already told you this story, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
say it, and I won't mention the talent's name. I invited a guest to be on the podcast, and I said, just randomly asked her if she was available. To which she went on
Mhm.
this tirade about how she doesn't do free podcasts, and guys just want us to be on their podcast so they can get clout, and like I don't owe anybody anything other than the content that I provide them. And I'm not even really like worried about her listening to this podcast right now, because clearly if she reacted that way, she's probably not listening to the podcast anyway. And if she does,
Mhm.
and guilty conscience kicks in, oh well, fuck it,
Right.
you weren't going to be on the show anyway, so I really
Right.
don't care if you like what I'm about to say or not. But I said to her, I said, well, it's funny. I was like, I don't. She went on this rant about how fans feel like they're owed something, and I'm like, well, I don't know if owed is the right terminology to use, but when a fan is supporting you by meeting you at conventions, and going, if you're a feature dancer, go to feature shows, and or
Mhm.
buying autographs and pictures, and private dances, and subscribing to your OnlyFans, and are putting money in your pocket, regardless if you feel like they're owed something more than what you've already provided to them or not. Just
Mhm.
vocally saying it just goes to show you how stupid you sound. Because if it's me, even if I personally thought that, I'm not making it known, or at least
Right.
not tweeting it out, and, kind of trashing the people that kind of helped me get, a little bit of attention.
Right.
Um, so she goes on to say that, well, all I owe you is the content you have, and if that's the case, then I'd rather lose a fan, just because you buy my videos or my DVDs or whatnot. I don't owe you anything. And I'm like, no, technically you don't, but that to me, that's just smart marketing and smart hustle. Because
Right. That's
if you're at a convention, and like a fan comes up to you and buys a photo and buys an autograph from you, and you give them just a little bit, like 5 minutes of small talk, make them feel
mhm.
like they're like important, whether in the back of your mind thinking this guy's a fucking perv or a creep or whatever,
Right.
or even if you don't think that, just you giving that person 5 minutes of your time with a little chit chat and small talk, like that person's gonna walk away and say, damn, like, Katie Kush was fucking chill as shit. Like, I'm gonna keep supporting her,
Right.
and like, I don't, like, obviously, like, we're all in the same economical boat right now. Like, I subscribe to your OnlyFans. I don't know how long I'll be able to continue the subscription, but
Mhm.
you came on the podcast. You were chill to come on the podcast. So I'm like, you know what? In return, I bought at least a month subscription to her OnlyFans to kind of be like, that's my gratitude for you supporting me.
Right.
So, I mean, what's kind of like your feeling on that?
My feeling on that is kind of like, I don't know. I feel like people need to like take a step back before just responding and kind of think of the situation and what it could either bring for them or not. Like kind of weigh out your options and see how that relationship is going to benefit you, because you could sit here and be nasty to people, just like you and I kind of already talked about. Like the way I approach people is, no matter who it is, I start off and I will always be very nice and outgoing in myself, because you have not proved to me otherwise. But when you start to prove to me otherwise, that's where I become not not really like myself anymore. So I kind of feel like if someone, just for a simple question of are you available, to come back so nasty like that is like where she should have taken a step back and realized, like, I didn't even know who you were.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of you, and all you asked me was if I was available for a podcast. Now, first off the bat, when I hear that someone has a podcast, I'm always kind of down to do it because you don't know what audience that's going to reach, and you don't know how many people that's going to reach. That could bring me fans that who would have never heard of me before. So why wouldn't I do it? All I have to do is have a conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then it turned out to be, oh, okay, now you're going to like purchase my OnlyFans. Well, look at how much that has also like brought to me. So I just feel like people kind of need to, I feel like a lot of people in this industry get so used to people trying to use them and get things out of them for free that that's all that they have at the forefront of their mind. Where I feel like all of us kind of, and I won't lie to you, I've fallen into that a couple of times where I just want to be nasty and like, F you, you're just trying to get something for free, where no, take a step back, evaluate the situation and really decide like what is going to benefit from you. If you keep, just like how this is how I am even on my OnlyFans when I message people. I always tell people I'm not going to DM you on my Twitter. Like the only way I talk to you is if you're either through my Sex Panther, or which is a texting app and a calling app, or through my OnlyFans. Now, people who message me on my OnlyFans, I start off very, very nice. I'm very like, I talk all the time. I answer all the questions. But when it starts to get to the point where you have only subscribed for my very cheap monthly fee and you're asking all these things of me and trying to get all this information out of me, it gets to a point where I'll start slowly answering in shorter responses. Just because it's like, okay, now I can tell how much you're really trying to get out of me. Like this guy just followed me the other day. He was very nice, very polite. We've had a lot of conversation. He has tipped me a couple of times. So I'm like, F it, I'm going to keep talking to you. Duh.
Yeah.
And then it gets to this point where like the other day he was telling me how hard he's going through a divorce, and he's only working at like a very small store. So he can't pay a lot. And he hopes I don't mind that. And I was like, no, I don't mind that. You're paying my monthly. You've tipped me a couple of times. I don't care how small the tip is. We can still have our conversation. But then literally right after that, he's like, okay, so can you send me a little clip then? Can you send me a little video? Can you send me this picture with these leggings and this like style with your head behind your legs? Telling me all these things he wants out of me. And I'm like, you're just, and I haven't said anything to him, but I'm like, yes, I can go ahead and send the picture for you. But understand, I'm going to put a tipping cost at that. Like, you can't just start demanding all these things out of me when you just told, you know what I mean? So there's kind of like a fine line that I feel all of us need to be able to understand. Okay, now I see you're really trying to play me, or we're both just trying to benefit each other and have a good benefiting mutual relationship, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I totally agree. And it was like you were saying, so this talent, it's just like before evaluating who I was, you know, like I already had judgment passed upon me based off of what maybe someone else was doing, you know.
Exactly.
And
not everyone is the same, no matter how much we all want to sit here and try to put people into categories. Like, you don't know how different this person could be. You know?
Yeah, and it was funny because she's like, oh, you're trying to do is get clout. And I'm like, well, to an extent, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to make it in my field and what I do just as much as you're trying to make it in your field and what you do. You know, like, like there's not many guests that I have on my podcast that I can say that are not, you know, more popular than I am. Like, you have a lot more followers and a lot more reach and a lot more exposure and fan base than I do. So yeah, I guess if you really want to break it down, you are, you know, being, I hate saying, like, you are being kind of used in a way because, like, I, you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting a whole new fan base that'll listen to my podcast off of your popularity, but it's a give and take situation that I'm hoping that, you know, people will hear this, like you said, who don't know much about you and are like, I've always tell these to my guests too. I was like, they're like, well, what's the whole concept of the podcast? I'm like, well, I want to get people to get to know you on a different level than what they see on just video. You know what I mean? I could Google your name and find free videos online of you. Just people don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, pay for her OnlyFans. But like people, like people can see you on a video and are just like, okay, like she's, you know, she's hot. She does porn. Like, I'm enjoying this. But like, I feel when you have a different type of, like, a direct emotional connection to a talent, when you find out that, you know, maybe you have a hobby or you have a talent or something that you do that someone can relate to, like, that fans will like you a lot more and will, you know, want to be more supportive of you. So I always say is, you know, my whole point of the podcast is trying to get you to gain a bigger following, you know, and then unfortunately, there are people out there that already have a huge enough following that they feel that they don't, you know, no new friends, but they don't need no new fans, you know. So they're
No, that's
like,
not a thing. See, that's where I'm like, you may have less followers than I do, but none of those followers would have heard my name unless they went to you. So it doesn't matter. Just like you said, it's a give and take situation. So my other thing with that too, though, is oh fuck, I just had it and now it's that's what I was gonna say. Just like you said, it's more of a personal level. The reason I feel like I also say yes to most podcasts is because I've had a lot of my friends, my fans tell me, "Oh my god, I really enjoyed listening to that podcast through so and so. Oh my god, that's so interesting." And at first I thought they were trying to say like, "Oh, I listened to your podcast, it's very interesting," in a negative way.
mm-hmm.
But when I asked them like, "What do you mean by interesting? What the fuck does that mean?" They were like, "No, it's just so interesting to hear you talk because you're like a real person." And I'm like, "Well, most of us are real people."
Mm-hmm.
Like
And it gets lost in that. People don't realize that you guys are real people. That you know
yeah.
you
They're like,
know.
"Oh, it was just so nice to hear you talk about certain things. I really loved when you talked about this." And I'm like, "That's why I love doing podcasts. I don't really care who it's for. I know my fans are going to go listen to it because they like to hear that little piece of me that they don't ever get to see somewhere else." So,
And even if you've repeated stories from podcast to podcast, you know, like
right.
true fans are like, oh, I love this story. Like I just love hearing that same story again. Um,
Yeah.
and it's weird because like some of these people, like I understand before everything started happening, you know, it's like a scheduling issue and people don't have a whole lot of time, so time is money. But
Hmm.
I've been setting up a lot of these podcasts the last 2 weeks, and I'm saying, well, not in a bad way, but what the fuck else are you doing right now? You know, like
That's why I was like, what else am I going to do with my life?
you
Like,
can't
you're
go out
giving me something,
nowhere. You can't go
you're giving me
shopping.
time to waste right now.
Yeah, like if I wasn't talking to you right now, it's like what else would I be doing right now?
I would probably be watching The Handmaid's Tale right now, which is okay. I need a break from it because I'm trying to go watch it with a friend.
Now it like so all right, so let's get into like the personal stuff of this. So how
Yeah.
long have you been in the business?
I have now been in the business for a year, and I think we're going on like 3 or 4 months. I started in November, I believe,
Okay.
of 2018.
And what
So,
made you want to get into it? Always curious.
yes. So basically, I had just gotten out of a 3.5 year long relationship. I started out with camming. If you don't know what camming is, it's basically just going live through a website and people paying for me to do sexual acts for them. Um, and like a virtual experience, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
then at that time, I had owned a house, and the person I was with moved out, so I was trying to afford the mortgage on my own, and I just couldn't do it anymore. But my late best friend, she found some ad on Facebook. And it said, if you want to make these amount of dollars, hit me up. So I messaged what used to be my agent at the time. I messaged him, and he got me my first film in August of 2018. And then after I did it, it took me a while to get into the industry just because I had a pretty good like something that I could have made a career out of. So I was basically juggling in my hands like, I don't want to say ruin because that's what everyone says. It definitely did not ruin my life, but do I want to ruin this career path I have? Or do I just want to say F it and restart my life with the porn industry? And so at that time, I couldn't even afford a little apartment on my own through what I thought could have been a career path. So I was like, why would I sit here and struggle and stress about money when I could go and be completely fine through the film industry? So I just decided to make the switch.
Now, I mean, growing up, and I always like ask these questions, so I apologize to anybody who ever listens to my podcast. I feel like I'm listening, asking the same questions, but like you have to get in a mental state to feel
Hmm.
comfortable doing anything sexual, whether it be getting naked or actually doing sexual acts or anything of that
Right.
nature. So like as I don't want to say child because that sounds creepy and like illegal, but like like growing
Pedophilish.
yeah, like if but like when you're growing up, like did you like how quickly did you blossom into becoming someone that was comfortable?
Sexual.
Yeah.
Honestly, And I know people always want these crazy extravagant stories like, ooh, she was such a whore, like she was bound. No. I was such a goody good. Even when I was with my ex in our 3.5 year long relationship, it was so vanilla. Like our sex was so vanilla. Honestly, I didn't become the type of sexual, like crazy person I am now until I got in the industry. It really, really opened me up. I mean, I knew I liked sex before I got into it. I lost my virginity when I was at the second half of freshman year. Um, so I mean, I guess that's kind of a little bit earlier, I guess.
Seems about
But I
normal
wasn't
age.
like crazy sexual. The
Mm-hmm.
first experience wasn't like it shouldn't have happened. And then after I lost my virginity, like the last half of my freshman year, I didn't really do anything sexual with a different person until like junior year of high school. So,
So you had that little
like,
period there of where you just weren't into the mood, or just like it just you preoccupied with other things, or
no, it just wasn't on my mind. Like, it just wasn't something that I was really into. It was always so growing up, my parents were like, my dad was so fucking sheltered. We would not, anytime I had a split family my whole life. So my mom was separate from my dad my whole life, and anytime I was with my dad, we weren't allowed to go to friends' houses. There was no such thing as sleepovers until I hit like fucking middle school. Um, and he was just very, very strict with us. Now my mom was very freaking lenient. We were allowed to do whatever we wanted. But when she married my now stepdad is when it kind of changed, because he became fucking superhero dad. And he wanted like to keep us on track. My sister was always, that's what's kind of funny about me being in the industry, is because my sister was more of the hoe when we were younger. And she was always getting in trouble for like taking naughty pictures and talking dirty to people on the phone, while I was the one who was like, oh my God, I would never do that. You know what I mean? And then now I'm the one in the industry and she's the one with 2 fucking kids. So it just kind of is funny how it all turned out.
I hope she
But
gets to
yeah,
listen to this and hears you say, now you got 2 fucking kids.
oh, I've told that to her. I've said that to her too. I was like, you know what's funny about all of this? Is like, you're the one who used to be the hoe. And I'm the one who ended up in the porn industry, and you have 2 kids and you're the housewife. Like, that's what makes me laugh the hardest, I think. So she already knows that. But yeah, I was not really a sexual kid, honestly. And even when a guy would ask me to be sexual with him, I was so awkward and just so vanilla, and I didn't know what I was doing. So the industry opened me up as not only a person, but a sexual person as well, a lot. And that's before we started all of this, that all of this talk was what I was telling you before. I was like, okay, let's start the podcast before I get into it.
We don't want to give away any good
Because
stories.
yeah, because that's like, I would not be the person I am today if I didn't get into the industry. And like you said, it's hard for you to like, you don't know how you would tell people, or because I'm so open. I'm just a very open book. I'm very open with people. I don't care to be an open book. You can ask me whatever you want. I just find no reason of it in it. You know what I mean? There's no reason to feel embarrassed. Like, people will message me and be like, I'm so embarrassed to tell you this, but this is my kink. And I'm like, why are you embarrassed about that? There's
Mm-hmm.
no reason to be embarrassed about that. Like, it's part of freaking life, you know?
It's because society has made it so weird. It's like even me
Right.
doing a podcast, like, it is funny the origins of how I started a podcast. I was doing a college radio show, and I'm driving home from doing my show one night. I turn on like regular radio, and it's like a late Friday night or something, like the naughty hours where they think that nobody's listening, and a local DJ had a adult talent on, and I'm just like, really, like I could do that. Like, this is before podcasting was even coined podcasting or a thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you get a little bit more comfortable with it. And I always tell people it's funny because, like, you'd be surprised how many people watch and pay and have so much
Mhm.
interaction with porn, and
Mhm.
for some
That's
reason
what.
they don't, that's like, shame on you. And it's just like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
you watch it, we all know you're watching it, you know what I mean, whether
Exactly.
you want
That's
to
what
admit it
makes
or
me
not.
laugh. That's what makes me laugh so hard. Like, society has put such a stigma on it, and oh, it's so bad. And I know people, like, there are people out there who right after they finish coming or whatever, they're like, oh, so shameful, delete, delete, delete. But it's like, why? It's a part of freaking life. Why are we like that? Why do we think like that? And I've not been so open like this until I got into the industry. I used to be the same way, so scared, and especially after talking to my dad. When I told my dad what I do, I was like, oh my God, I was holding up every time I was around you guys. It was some big weight on my shoulders where I feel like I had to tell you, but I didn't want to tell you. And this whole thing, like, oh, I felt so like shaky and nervous telling you guys. And my stepmom, even afterwards, she was like, look at that, like you had all this anxiety and fear pent up for literally no reason. And I'm like, exactly, like why are we like that? you know,
Hmm.
why do we do that to ourselves for no reason?
And I flip flopped from time to time doing the podcast where there's points where I'm feeling that same like anxiety, like, oh my God, like I don't want this person to hear it, like what is this person's going to think.
hmm
Ultimately, it's just like at the end of the day, like, am I doing anything illegal right now? Stop and think
right,
about it. Am I breaking the law right now talking to you? No.
right.
Like,
Am I hurting anybody? Am I doing any
exactly.
harm to anybody? No. Like, so why does it
I'm not
matter? Why do we
promoting
care?
any hate. I'm not promoting anybody to do any sort of violence against anybody.
Right.
Like I'm not like we're having a chill conversation about shit that 99.9% of you people are already doing behind closed
hmm
doors. You just don't, for whatever reason, feel comfortable, talking about it.
Right.
And and it's crazy when you have things like this epidemic that are happening right now. You're just like, you know what, like enjoy life, man. Just fucking do whatever the hell
Seriously.
you want to do. Again, I'm not discriminating against anybody. Like I'm not being, racist against anybody. I'm not, telling listeners to go out and beat people up or hate or, I'm
Right.
not promoting anything negative other than what society's told you is not morally, correct.
Right. All because of what? For what reason? That's just what makes me laugh. Like literally you live one life that you cannot ever get back. So why not do what makes you happy? You're the only person who makes decisions in your life. So make decisions that are good for you, that make you happy, that make you want to live.
And
Like
that
why
could
put yourself in a situation where you hate life? There's no reason for that.
and that could be said with any form of activity that anybody wants to do, like I
Right.
just, and it's again going back to saying that, I'm such a humble person that, but I have to kind of, toot my own horn. Like I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I
Mhm.
run all this by myself. Like I don't have a an editing team. Like I edit the stuff. Like I do most of this work by myself.
Right.
So it's just like you got to give yourself some credit and say, you know what, fuck it, do what you feel like doing, do what you enjoy doing. Somebody out there is going to appreciate it. Somebody out there is going to like it, and somebody out there is going to
Right.
continue to listen and continue to support you. And the people that don't want to, like I'm not here to beg people.
Right.
Like you either,
Exactly.
I hopefully, people listen to this and we get, millions of downloads and streams of this, but I'm content with like if I got one person to listen to it, I'm like, that's one person that listened to it all the way through and was just like, yo, that's
Right.
pretty dope. Um
Exactly.
so you mentioned about how you kind of like got you found your sexual side when you got into the business. So take us to the first day that you were shooting on set. Like what was that process like? Was there like anxiety? Was it like nervousness? Was it like like for me, I feel like my
Oh,
heart would be racing.
oh, it was the whole nine. Okay, so I talked to my late best friend the whole time through the process because I got my call sheet as like the itinerary basically of what it says, and basically in there, which is for every set, no alcohol, no drugs in your system. You're not allowed to at all the whole day. And so I told her, like, I can't fucking go to set sober, like I need to smoke weed or I need a shot of something, like what are they talking about? And then I kept reading and she was like, well, then just take like one shot. It'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. And I kept reading and they were like, if they know or if they test you or if they know slash find out that you're on drugs, you will be sent home, or alcohol, either one, that you will be sent home, no pay. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, they can send you home. I didn't know that was the thing, blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, girl, I would just take like half a shot or a shot and just go and like, just don't say anything. And I was like, I can't do that. I need this money. If they send me home, then I'm fucked. So I was like, you know what? I'm going sober. So I went completely sober, heart racing the whole way there, super, super nervous, super shaky. Um, My first one was Exploited College Girls. If anyone wants to know, they can go look it up. But when I got there, it went from me being nervous to once talking to the people, and once we like went through what's gonna happen and the whole nine, I was it like completely kind of changed me, because the guy came up to me and he's like, the talent came up to me and he's like, "Are you nervous?" All hyped up. He's all excited. "Are you nervous?" And I was like, "What am I nervous? What are you talking about? Yes, this is my first time doing fucking porn. Yes, I'm nervous." And he was like, "No, no." He's like, "There's no need to be nervous. We're going to go on a sexual experience today. We're really going to open you up. It's going to be great." And like, I don't know what it was about him saying that. And I don't know if it's just because the vibe of both him and the director were so awesome that I was just like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. And it really freaking was. It was a really good time. I left there with like the biggest smile on my face. I had a check in my hand. I was so shaky. I instantly called the same best friend and was trying to tell her like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I just got fucking paid money to have sex on camera. Like, this is so cool." I was really excited about it. So it was a really good experience for my first time.
So once you finished all that and you get an agent and everything, so people that like get into the business or want to get into the business, like how often do you get booked for scenes? And because people tell me all the time they shoot things that they don't know when and where and how often it's going to be posted. So
Right.
like how often is it that you work and shoot scenes?
So before all this craziness, that's kind of why I switched agencies. So once you, as a starter off in the industry, that is like the first couple months are your probably going to be your best months in the industry. And that's because you're brand new. Everyone, not everyone, but there's a lot of sites out there that want to get you in as their, oh, my first, casting couch and all of those types of things. So there's the smaller companies who really want to get all the new people in and out before they leave the industry. A lot of people, when you start the industry, they always think that you're only going to be in, they say 3 months is the most. And then after that, it's like, okay, now you're going to be a 6 monther. And they always think you're going to quit before you get to 3 to 6 months. So they kind of try their hardest to really get you in before you decide to quit. So the first months are always amazing. You're working almost every other day. And then with my first agency, I was only working like 3 to 4 times a month. And that's where I was like, this is not okay. I can't live off of just 3 to 4 months of shooting. So I decided to switch my agencies. Not only that, I'm not going to get too into it, but I just started losing trust. And if you don't trust the person who's making your money or helping you make your money, then why would you stay with them, was my thought process. So I decided to leave and I moved over to this new agency. And honestly, it was one of the best things, I think, for me in this industry at the moment. And with them, I'm working like, let me look at my calendar so I don't give you anything wrong. But I'm pretty sure with them, I've been working at least 2 to 3 times a week to every other week. So it's like a way better, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
A
definitely.
way better decision.
No, it's weird that you say that people think that, you got 3 months to get into business and, get out. Like how much of a turnaround do like detail wise is people that go in for like 6 months and then get out. Like that's just that to me that's mind blowing that people
Mm-hmm.
only invest 3 months into the job and then want to get out of it because it's not like and I don't say this, like if you're, different than anybody else, but like normal civilian, if
Mm-hmm.
not to make you sound like you're aliens, but like a normal
We
civilian.
do we say that too. We'll be like the civilian life.
Yeah, so like the civilian life. So if you get a job and you're working at a Best Buy or, Target and, you try the job out for 3 months and you're like, "Oh, well, it wasn't meant for me to be in that job. I didn't like it. I quit after 3 months." But
Hmm.
this is different. Like this is porn. Like this is
I think
forever. It's not like the surveillance camera at the Wegmans is being uploaded online. It's like it's out there forever. Everybody watched you, you know, push carts.
right.
Like
See, the difference I think with this and like obviously a civilian job or whatever is it can be very mentally draining for a lot of people. I mean, it depends. You have to be very, very strong, I think, to get into this industry, and you definitely have to have a huge mental grasp on your own mind. And especially, like, a lot of people, obviously, I know we all know this, get in the industry because what people call daddy issues or whatever. That's like, it's not all true for everyone, but it is a very real thing. And there's a lot of people in this industry, obviously, that have you do daddy daughter fucking stuff, and that hits really close to home for some people, to where they can't do that anymore. I had a friend who was in the industry. She made it, I think, to the more of the 6-month mark, and even I could tell she needed to get out. You can, when you're with the person, you hear it, their mentality is just not there. It's too much for them to handle, and it's just not made. You're not made for it, and that's okay. It's not made for everybody, or else everyone would be doing it,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's why there's such a high turnaround in the industry, because it is a mental fuck. Like, there are some people who can't do it without doing drugs or alcohol, which is not allowed, and that's not okay, and you shouldn't live through life like that. My father, when I told him, even said the same thing. He's like, please just promise me that if it ever comes down to where you can't do it sober, and you're constantly having to find a way to, like, cover it, then please just get out of it. Stop doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I 100% agree with that. Now, I've even tried stripping at a club while doing all of this, and I like it. It gives me something to do. I haven't done it in a while because you had to go at least once every 30 days. And with my new agency, I just didn't have the time for it, which is awesome. But the difference, stripping is a whole different freaking ball game than the porn industry. And I could not, / no one could. I'm sure there are some strippers out there that don't do it at all, but they literally encourage you to drink and have people buy drinks for you. So it's like, if I was stripping, I would be drunk every single time I'm there. And that's just, for me, not a lifestyle I want to live, and not very healthy for you. So it's just kind of what you can handle. You know what I mean?
I guess for me, I looked at it as, if you're in it for 3 months, in it for 6 months, like you said, if it's not for you, then it's not everybody's cut out for it. But
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, maybe like you said, maybe there are daddy issues, maybe there's something that was clouding the vision, somehow. But like when you get into it, what, like, you would think that these people would think these things through
No.
before getting into it. Like, I'm not.
Yeah. You would think. I told the girl that I was telling you about, who she got out after about like 6 months, because even I could tell her mentality wasn't there. I was talking to her about how I really had to think, like, okay, is the industry really something I want to do? Can I handle it? Because it's not even just daddy issues. You have to have a lot of self, I guess, would it be called respect? I don't know. A lot of people, like, start to fall into this, oh, I'm not as pretty as her. I'm not going to make it. No one likes me because I don't look like her. I don't have big tits like her. So it starts to become like that type of mind game with yourself as well. And when I was telling her about all my thought process to get into it, and, oh, could I handle it? And am I okay with living a lifestyle like that? She was like, you really thought about all of that? And I'm like, yeah, because I knew it was a whole different life. And she's like, I didn't even think about it. I just got into it. I just did it because I wanted to.
Yeah, it's a commitment that you're making, realizing that
Yeah.
this is stuff that's going to, again, it's out there forever. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't go away. And I've had and known people that have been on the podcast, or just people that haven't been on the podcast, but people that I know who have been in the business and have gotten out of the business for whatever reasons, and try to cover it up and ignore what it is that they used to do. It's like, oh, I'm not, I don't know nothing about that. And then I know other talent who are like, hey, I used to operate as Katie Kush, and that's not how I operate anymore, but it's part of me, and it's something that I did, and I can't ignore it, and then
Mm-hmm.
other people will completely ignore it. So, yeah, it's interesting. I've never heard like the 3 month, 6 month stat, you
Yeah.
know.
That's where a lot of production companies, and a lot of them are focused on the new girls. Like, let's get the new girls in before they leave, type thing.
Yeah.
There are even some agencies, when I left my last agency, that's literally what I said. They are more cut out for the new girls. They're here to help, which is what they did for me. They helped my beginning, but now that I'm so far in, they're way too worried about getting the new girl and all of that, that it's like, why am I going to stick with someone, you know, who's not really focused on me, which is why I love my new agency now, because they are so focused on who they have.
Now, when you
Then, oh, let's get the new girl before she like disappears, you know?
yeah, they try to use you up before your stock value is
Right.
no longer there. Um,
Basically.
Now, but let me ask, when you got into it, and obviously you clearly thought about this process.
Mhm.
How long did you have like a time frame in your mind of how long you wanted to do this, or was it just kind of like I'm just kind of just rolling with the punches?
Um, no, and I still kind of am just rolling with the punches. I mean, I've always had like a thought, and that's where it's hard too, because people always ask me like, "Oh, when you were a little kid, what did you want to be?" And it's like, I never, and I still don't have any fucking clue what I want to do in this life. You know what I mean? Like, that's another reason why I feel like I'm so like an open book, and I'm kind of roll with the punches type of person. Like, I know I've always wanted to kind of do cosmetology, and that was kind of my ideal. Like, I'm going to get in the industry, and I'm just going to be in the industry for, I guess, as long as I can, especially while I'm young and at the age I'm at. And when I get enough money, I'll go back to school for cosmetology, and then I'll start doing hair and makeup and nails, and I'll try to open my own business. It's kind of like, I guess, what I have been thinking, but plans always change. I mean, now that I'm more in the industry, I very do much love filming, so I could always do that. I like editing, I could always do that. And you know, so it's like, I still don't know when I want to end this industry. I mean, if I'm doing well, I'm just going to keep going.
Hmm.
You know, I don't really have a plan. I'm just kind of living life as
Kind
it
of
comes.
living in the moment, taking it stride by stride right now, because like you
Very
said, you
much
don't.
so, especially now.
Yeah, because you don't know when and where it's going to end, or when the journey's going to end. Um,
Exactly. And like, all of us, and my roommate and I talk about it all the time. It could end with the snap of our fingers. Obviously, you know, production's on, it's obviously not ended, and porn will never end. Porn has been around for many, many fucking years. But it's like, for you as a person, it could end at any moment. You could do something that gets you blacklisted without even knowing that it was going to, or you could do something that gets you blacklisted that you knew was going to, you know? So it's such a finicky field, I feel.
Now, you mentioned about how with your new agency, they had you working 2 and 3 times a week.
Mhm.
So when people, civilians, I should say, civilians here 2 3 times a week, and it's clearly it's not just going there. If you're watching a 20-minute scene on a DVD, you're not there for 20
Mhm.
minutes. Like, there's a lot more that goes into it.
Oh yeah.
But what, like, how, I guess what I'm trying to get at is how exhausting can it be? Is it always pleasurable, or is it kind of like you get worn out or tired?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. So honestly, and this is where like I kind of question my roommate a lot because she's like, I feel like I'm not working enough, but I'm like, girl, you are fucking working almost every day. What do you mean? But it depends on the person. It takes such a toll on your body. So many bodily fluids are being switched around. I mean, like, were we cut out to be having sex every day as rough as we do? Like, probably not. There's lots of things that come with women's health, such as, I mean, it's a fucking open hole. You know what I mean? That's
Hmm.
why I say, like, men have it so easy. They don't have a fucking hole in their body that they have to make sure your pH levels are right, make sure your food is right, make sure that that person's fucking fluids for whatever reason mix well with your fluids, and they won't always, causing yeast infections, causing UTIs. Like, I also, this is another reason why I got my tonsils removed. Now, I don't know if it has anything to do with the industry, but after getting into the industry, I have had strep throat so many times that it started causing, I got scarlet fever in the middle of me being in the industry due to strep throat. I had 2 abscesses in my throat. And so it's just like, there can be some health issues with it, but you have to know how to take care of yourself, you know? And definitely take the time. Like, if you're not working, do a self-care day as much as you can. Relax as much as you can, because it takes a lot out of you. It is a lot of energy, a lot of mentally draining days, and you're not always compatible with your partner. You may not like each other at all, but you're there, you're doing a job, you have to get it done. So it's like, it can be hard sometimes, for sure. Some days last longer than 8 hours. I used to PA for someone, which means you're a production assistant or a producer assistant, whatever. And you basically just help with throughout the day. Lighting. I was actually helping him run his second camera, getting the talent water, all of the above. And I was there from 8 a.m. Sometimes the latest I had been there was 10 p.m. And that is
Wow.
with talent. So it's like, it can be very, very hard compared to what people think. A lot of people are misconstrued about that, especially misconstrued about how much money we actually make. They think we're like some very rich people, when I'm like, no, we're not. So it's a lot harder than people make it out to be, for sure.
Because you say 2 to 3 times a week that you're shooting, and the average civilian, I don't have numbers or stats. Like, I don't know how often the normal civilian is having sex in 1 week, but
Mhm.
they're clearly not doing it from 8 a.m., stopping, taking breaks, redoing, all the way
Mhm.
until 10 o'clock at night, 3 times a
Right.
week. Um,
Not only that, with multiple different partners, like, it's not always the same person.
yeah. And like you said, and then if
So,
you're don't even have like a chemistry or, even like that person, you're just like, I'm sure there's probably some guys out there that are probably, having sex with their wives or girlfriends and are just like, I really can't stand this chick. It's a different type of hate, or I don't even want to say hate, but like I said, it's a job, it's a business,
right.
and maybe this is a weird comparison, but the first thing that popped in my head about where you're saying it's a physical thing is, you look at it as like a trained athlete. You mean like a professional athlete that's playing games every day or something. Like, you have to make sure you know your body, take care of your body. It's
Mhm.
strenuous work. It's not just dribbling a basketball and just kind of having a little shoot arounds. There's guys out
Right.
there that are playing games and traveling, and you know and I know people out
Sometimes you
there.
can't eat before you go to the shoot. Like, there are companies out there, if it's an extreme blowjob or whatever, which involves vomit and a bunch of spit and all of the above, you're not allowed to eat anything that has color, especially if it's red, because a lot of sites don't let you have blood on there. And if it looks like blood, they'll take it down. Um, so you have to have like only clear liquids. And like, one of the sets I showed up, we weren't allowed to eat anything all morning. And then once we got there, they gave us like powdered donuts, animal crackers, water, and Red Bull. That's the only things we were allowed to have. And one of the one girl that I was with ended up, when she had some of her vomit, some red stuff came out, and they were like, okay, you're not allowed to throw up the rest of the shoot. So then I was the only one vomiting. So like, that's fucking hard on your body, vomiting for no fucking reason,
I
like,
like I couldn't tell you the last time that I vomited because I just hate the feeling of it. I can't imagine
I
to do it
I
for
hate
work.
it. Nausea is the worst. The worst feelings in the world for me are nausea and throat pain. It's the worst things in the world.
Now, let me ask, like, so obviously, like, you've admitted that you've done scenes like that. So, what are some scenes that you just dread having to do, or you just do it because it's like, hey, it's paying, and this is what I got to
Money.
do? Hmm.
um. Oh, what are some scenes that I hate? Uh,
I mean, I kind of feel weird because I don't want you to like say it and then like ruin opportunities for you
I know,
to
right?
get
No, no.
gigs.
I mean, it's hard because now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't know if there really are any scenes that I hate. I mean, obviously, when I show up and I find out, like, because you don't always know what it's going to be until you get there. Like, you know what the shoot consists of, but you don't know like what the dialogue's going to be. Like, is it stepbrother, stepsister? Is it gonzo? And gonzo just means you basically don't talk at all, you just start having sex. Or it's like an interview before, you don't really know that until you kind of get there. So for me, I guess, and I don't hate them, but like, I would say stepbrother, stepdaughter type shit. Kind of, I'm just like, ugh, this again, you know, like.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us in the industry really like it. You even see producers kind of talk about it on Twitter, like, God damn it, I'm doing another one of these. I even saw a producer be like, I'll never complain now that all this quarantine stuff is happening. I'll never complain about a stepdaughter scene again. And I'm like, we all know you will.
Now, is it just
But
because
it's
it's
like,
weird feeling, or is it kind of like because it kind of puts you in a weird mood, or?
it just kind of, it's weird. It's just really, really weird to be doing things like that. I mean, for me, it's weird. I won't lie. I had my virginity taken by my stepfather. So for me, sometimes it's a little weird. But it's just, I know it's acting, so you know, like, we just pick up and move on. I don't know, I guess something I would do only for the money is like glory hole scenes. I will not lie about that, and I feel like there's other people in the industry who would say the same thing. And glory hole scenes are the ones where the guy's standing behind the wall with just his dick out and you just have to make him come in your mouth, basically, is what that is. And so I guess those are the ones where I'm just like, sure, I'll do it.
Now, not to get into the personal, but you did mention, with your stepfather. Like, is that
Yes.
is that something that was intentional or unintentional, or how did And you don't have to
um
answer. Just.
oh no, I don't care, this story's already out there. So he was the one who took my virginity. It wasn't intentional at all. We used to go hunting a lot. I used to hunt when I was little. And him and I went for the first time by ourselves to go hunting for elk. And we had been out there for a really, really long time. I think it was my tag that we were trying to fill. And he was like complaining. We were on a quad and he was like complaining about his muscles. And I was like, crazy, my muscles hurt too. I was like, this was my and like the end of my freshman year or whatever. I was like, my muscles hurt really bad too. I'm so sore. These beds suck. We were just in a little trailer. And he was like, do you want to do massages tonight? And I was like, sure. Not thinking anything of it. You know, it's your
Mm-hmm.
stepdad. Like, he used to walk in on us taking showers and stuff. And my mom has always said, like, I should have taken that as a red flag. But I would always, I don't know. I've had like a really weird close family with my mom, and my sister and I would always walk in and kind of talk to my mom while she's like in the shower. I feel like that's just the bond we had. And so I guess we just like correlated it to him doing what we do or whatever. But that night after giving massages, we were like laying there and he was telling me about the bones in my body because he was a nursing major or whatever. And he started telling me about the anatomy of my vagina, basically. And while he was down there, he was like, so like, can I show you, like, insert my fingers? And he still does that to this day. Like, when I'm sick, because he's still with my mom, if we're on the phone with each other and my mom's like sleeping or something, he'll be on the phone with me and I'll be talking about, like, not too long ago I had some problems where, and I still have the problems, but basically like I'll faint sometimes. And we were talking about it, and it could be like a heart condition, and my grandpa has heart problems, so him and I were kind of talking about it, and he was like, if you want, he tries to do it sneakily, but it's like weird, you can tell it's getting weird, because he'll be like, well, if you want to start checking your heart valves, this is where they are. And I would be like, okay, I don't really feel anything, but like I'll find it later to try and sway him. And he'll be like, what do you mean you can't feel anything? You're supposed to feel something. If you don't feel anything, then that's weird. He's like, but lift your shirt up and I'll show you. Like, just lift your shirt, I'll show you where it's at. And I'm like, I know what you want from me. Like, stop trying to ask me to lift my shirt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of always how he's been. And so that's kind of how it started. And he just ended up inserting his fingers, and then it turned into sex. And then it happened many, many, many times after that until I decided to tattletale.
But you still, like, with your mom, how did she react? Like, you're saying that you still talk to him and it's still ongoing, and it's just like,
So
I mean, you're
I
more
know
mentally
my life
strong
is
than I
weird.
am, because it's like
Um,
a bad episode of SVU, and it's just like, whoa,
I
where?
know. I'm like, my life is actually really, really weird. I won't lie. It's very weird to go through. So basically, I told my mom about it because my sister and I had gone. We're getting okay. It's hard. I don't know where to start. So basically, my mom, my stepdad, one of his cousins, and for some reason, and this is where it's also like, hello, red flag. My stepdad used to get really, really close to my sister and I's friends. And so they went up north without me and my sister because we had school. He took one of his cousins, my mom, my stepdad, and one of our friends up north.
Like, without
And
you guys, just like one of your friends?
Yes, without us, just one of our friends. Isn't that weird?
And the friend wasn't like
They
confused
were
about like, huh?
No, they were all like, that's just how my family was. All my friends would get really close to my stepdad, and then my family, he still does it with my siblings. I have a little brother now and a little half sister, and he does it with like their friends too. Well, they're still a little younger, so it's a little hard, but he'll make friends with like younger people and always bring them over and always buy them gifts and always take them on trips and like have them babysit the kids. It's fucking weird. And so he did that with our friends, and me and my sister were home alone. And while they were up there, this friend, and she tells me the story about when they went on that trip and everything. Like when my mom would not be around, he would fucking try to do sexual things with her. And she always apologizes to me because she went on that trip with them, and he got it out of her that us three, me, my sister, and this friend, went to a party and we were drinking, and it made him mad, and they decided to come home early, and they wanted to come and punish us and take our phones away. And when they were on their way back down, I decided I'm tired of getting in trouble when this motherfucker is doing shit he's not supposed to do either.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna tell you something, but like, don't hate me, but I'm just tired of holding on to this burden, and I just want to tell you something. So I ended up telling her, and she's like, dude, no fucking way, like, you have to tell mom, what the fuck, like, all this stuff. So we ended up calling my mom, and I told my mom over the phone as they were on their way down, and she told us to get out of the house, like, go see if we can stay with a friend. So we did, and she tried to leave him, and I went through a whole investigation and everything. But when you go through an investigation like that, they make you do a test, basically, where the doctor checks to see if you've had sex, or like they can tell or whatever from the damaged tissue in your vagina.
Mm-hmm.
And basically they said that they could tell that there was definitely scarring in there, and I have had sex before, but because I was the age that I was, they don't know if it was from him or somebody else, because I was already old enough to have had sex before. And even though I told them obviously I had not had sex with anyone else and everything, they can't prove it. So
Huh.
that's kind of how that went.
Like that is like the most bizarre thing I ever heard. So I mean, like technically, I mean, it's considered rape.
It would be like molestation, yeah, which I guess is rape,
Because clearly,
but
clearly, it's not
yeah.
something that you were welcoming and enjoying. I mean, right?
I mean, that's, I don't know. And this is where I should definitely see a therapist.
I mean, I feel even weird, like even asking the questions because, like, obviously, like I don't want you to have to talk about nothing that you don't feel comfortable talking about.
No, it's okay. I mean, my grandma, when it all happened and everything was like going down, my grandma on my mom's side even called, and I don't know. I've talked to a lot of people about it, and sometimes it does kind of get under my skin. Like, it's not like I was like, oh my God, fucking have sex with me, blah, blah, blah. But like, I won't lie. There were times where like I'm the one who went to his room when my mom would leave for work, and like we would sleep together. But it's like, I guess I feel like I was doing it because I would get in trouble if I didn't. And I feel like my life would have been harder. Like he would have
Mm.
made my life harder if I would have refused,
So
is
it was
what was
almost like a form of like, let me just accept it because if I don't, he's just going to
right.
force it upon me anyway, which is going to make it even more difficult
Like,
or painful or
right.
But okay, so
So
I mean, I
that's kind
understand
of,
that, but like,
yeah.
I guess the point is too is like, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Like, okay, like, yeah,
The last conversation that kind of made it easier for me to understand, and this is why I love my late best friend so much, is because her and I were kind of talking about it, and I was telling her about how it pissed me off that someone was questioning me, kind of the same thing, like, oh, well, like, you clearly didn't like tell him no, so obviously you wanted it too. And I was telling her how much it pissed me off that people say that. And
mhm.
she was like, I just want you to understand, like, it's not like he was a bad looking guy, you know what I mean? Like, So she kind of made me understand it. Like, yeah, it's not like I fucking wanted it and like I was asking for it, and it's something that I wanted my personal self, but it's not like he was a bad looking guy. So yeah, and she'd be like, don't fucking get me wrong, he molested you all the way. But on the other hand, it's like kind of it's kind of like on the middle line, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
hard to explain.
I mean, I don't want to be insensitive and say, like you enjoyed it, you
Right.
know,
Exactly.
like I don't know what wording you would use for something like that, It's just
Right.
like clearly like you felt you were doing it from a standpoint where you almost needed to do it because it
Made my life easier.
made your life easier. Yeah, you felt safer by doing it, and
Right.
it wasn't so much you were doing it because you enjoyed doing it.
Right.
Unless I'm wrong in that thought process. I mean, just
No, no. I mean, I even told him like when some of it was happening, it's like if I were to go into the garage, he would follow behind me and like want to kiss me. And like my grandma, when she called, she was like, so basically, on one hand, it was like he was your stepfather, and on the other hand, he's like trying to date you. So like that's fucking confusing in it itself.
hmm
And so I told him one of the times that we were in the garage, because it's happened on so many occasions, like this needs to end because my mom's going to find out, like we can't be doing this. Like, so obviously there was that part of me that it's like I was the other woman for a while. And I told him no, but like he would not stop doing it.
hmm
So that's where it's like, I don't know, it's fucking weird.
And your
And
mother doesn't like. I mean, clearly,
they
like I'm assuming he doesn't admit to any of this.
no, he's like, so okay, jump forward. My mom moved us out on our own. We're gonna go quickly through this timeline. My mom moved us out on our own when I was my junior year of high school, and because she couldn't, she's just not strong enough, and still isn't strong enough to leave him. I mean, he's fucking psychotic. He stalked her when she tried leaving him. He would not leave her alone, called all day through the phone. Even though there was a protection order, he would still show up at her work, and she had just had a kid with him, so like she was scared that he was going to try and kidnap him and take him away, so she ended up just getting back with him. And when she decided to get back with him is when she moved us out on our own. She was like, I don't know how to leave, but I don't want to force you guys to live in this situation anymore, so I'm going to move you out on your own. And after that, I had not talked to my mom, and I really was mad at her and everything for a very long time. Um, all the way until I was getting out of my relationship, because I ended up living right down the street from her. Very oddly, I did not know she lived over there until I bought the house with my ex. And she and him would help me a lot because he became very abusive. And so they would come over when I needed them to, or they would let me stay at their house if I had to, because it was just right down the street and I could go home when I wanted. And one of the times we hung out, we all got very, 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 very drunk, went back to the house, and I was supposed to go back home. So I was saying goodbye to my little brother and sister, and I left, and he followed me home. And um, things ended up happening, and my mom ended up coming down to my house, and basically he left through my backyard, and she basically knew what happened like once she walked in the house, like where is he, what just happened, all of the above. And she even tried to leave him then and straight called the cops and on him and everything. It was a fucking long ass night. And basically they almost tried to arrest me and my mother because I'm over the age of 18 and we're falsely accusing somebody, and they can no longer do anything about it because I'm an adult, so nothing even happened, and they could have taken us to jail for a false report
Wow.
because he wouldn't leave the house, and he was like basically doing the same thing, not letting my mom leave, parking behind the car so we couldn't leave. And she tried calling the cops on him, and that's when he ran off with the car, and they were like, this is a false report, we could take you to jail. So it's happened before, and he's still, like I told you, even when we're like talking about just recently my health problems, still tries to do shit that he shouldn't do. But it's even weirder because my mom calls me the other day. I'm just telling you all my stories right now about my family.
But I
My
mean, it's for me. Like I said, it's like it's it's weird for me because I don't want to seem insensitive when I'm asking these
Right.
questions, but if the if there's any kind of silver lining to this is like people might be listening to this right now and are saying, "What the fuck? Like this is so fucked up." But you
Oh
might
yeah,
also
I'll
have
probably
other
get so
people,
many messages about this.
but there might be somebody else out there that is going through that same situation or has gone through that situation that
Yeah.
might be able to, for some reason, able to come to some kind of clarity,
Right.
because
A connection and
yeah. Now you
yeah.
mentioned that he has children with your mother of his own.
Mhm.
Um, what is her fear for your little brother and like sister? Like, please tell me he's not doing anything with the boys.
No, I don't see. I can't sit here and be like, well, no, he's not, because obviously I won't know until if my brother comes up and says something. Now, the difference though between me and my sister and the kids that he now has are they're his actual blood. And I even told this to when I was going through my investigation with therapists and everything, because they asked me the same question. I could never see him doing anything to his own blood. My sister and I were not. He's just our stepdad, like he was just married in.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's kind of why he didn't care. But like this is his son and this is his actual daughter. I could never see him doing something like that. But you never know until they decide to say, if they ever decide to say, that's
Yeah.
what sucks about it.
Now, going back to you being in the business, do you felt like this had any effect on you? I mean, you say people like thought about getting to the business and they got daddy issues. I know this is not your real
Oh,
dad,
there's
just
people in the
stepdad.
industry who will straight out tell you, I did this to get back at my dad, or I have daddy issues. There are people who actually say that.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad asked me the same question when I opened up to him. He was like, I just feared that you decided to do it because of everything that happened with your stepdad. And I disagree. I don't think I did it for any reason. In all honesty, and I know a lot of people probably hate this, but I got in the industry because of the money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I needed money, and it is quick. I'm not gonna say it's easy because it's not fucking easy, but it is easier, quick money. And that's kind of why I got into it. And I don't think it has anything to do with my stepfather at
So
all.
you would
There
have
have only
pursued
been,
this career regardless if this had been going on with your stepfather.
yeah. If it had never happened to me, I would probably do this anyway.
Mm. And you're confident in that answer, and
Very.
okay.
I mean, I've only thought about my stepfather in any of this twice. And it's because of something that was, hold on, let me close this door because this freaking truck came out of nowhere. The only time I had thought about him was twice. And that's because something was happening that made me think back to him. So I did a nature hike. Now, I'm not going to say I hate doing them because I don't always think of him. But I did this hike with some people that I'm very close to now. And we decided, because it was my idea, to start doing some naughty stuff in nature, and record it. And so we did it. And I don't know why, but in the middle of it, I thought back to my stepfather and I, because we had, like I said, we were hunting and we were doing stuff out in nature. And it just really hit a spark in me. But it wasn't like, ooh, I'm doing this because of him. It was more like, I kind of want to stop because I don't like to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, I don't think I would do it at all if he was always on my mind, because I don't like the way it makes me feel.
Yeah.
So I think it has nothing to do with him. I just wanted to do it.
I guess I said, you've jumped over that mental hurdle. I mean, I feel
Right.
weird now as a host of a podcast. Like I'm thinking, like, first process as you're answering the question, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, all right, where the fuck do I go with this podcast after this? Like my next questions that fans are sending me in are like things like, well, what do you love about the business? I'm like, how do I talk about like
How do we
fun?
segue?
Yeah, how do I segue to something that's like fun about the business that you enjoy when it's just like, oh my god, this girl just told me a story that's like something you'd hear on fucking 2020 or like
I
SVU
know.
episode where people are like there are going to be people that are going to comment on this podcast and they're going to say, first off, I'm already prepared. There's going to be people that are going to like hate against me,
No, why?
for asking the questions. But at the same time, I'm
Oh,
like, there's going to be people out there that are going to be like, this guy's a fucking monster. Like, how's this guy like roaming the streets?
I
Like I
know.
don't know as a podcaster, like at what point did like, did I violate any laws or anything by being like I know what just happened? Like,
no, I don't think so. I feel like because of, and that's what I meant by the girl who does that. That was the friend at the time. She apologizes to me now because I don't think anything can happen of it now. There's a lot of people, and I've even talking to a detective when I was in my senior year of high school. So that's almost like a year or half a year when it happened. And I even then was like, there's nothing you can do about it now. Like, it's too late. And some people will tell me now, like, no, it's not. Haven't you heard the stories where people still get them in trouble? I don't know. It's just something that I don't ever want to deal with. Like, I'm the type of person when something happens, it's like, okay, let's fix what needs to be fixed and move on like it never fucking happened, because what's going to come of it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the time to focus on it. I guess that's just my mental state of it. I don't know if it's me shoving it down, and why I always say I should probably go see a therapist. But it's like,
I mean, you're a stronger person than I am, because like I'm literally was like shaking as you're telling me this story, and I'm like,
oh
my God, like I'm so nervous to put this out there for the world to hear, because I'm not guilty of like accessory to any crime or withholding evidence by doing this. Am I? Because like I just ask questions. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I'm very open to talk about it when people want to. I've talked about it a couple times. I think I've talked about it on a podcast, but I've definitely talked about it before scenes. Like, sometimes they'll start asking questions. My Bang Bros scene, they were asking me, we were doing an interview, and they asked me how I lost my virginity. And I told them, and they were like, what? And the girl even recording was like, oh my God, I have to go get the director. Like, I don't know where to go from here.
Like, I don't know if we can put this out there.
Like, yeah, she was like, do we still talk about it? Are we allowed to talk about it? And the director was like, dude, eat that shit up. He was like, no way. Let's like ask her questions, blah, 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 as long as she's open to it, which I am. It's something that happened in my life. I'm not going to lie. Like, yeah. It has happened. I've been able to pick up and move on from it. And I feel like that's something we all have to be able to do. So I'm okay with talking about it. I don't think it's anything negative to put out there. It's not like I was, it's not like you were forcing me to ask questions.
I just don't want people to think that like I supported like what the hell just happened to you. Like, to me, I'm like when you said that so nonchalant, like in the middle of an answer or something, I'm like, whoa. I know. I'm like, what the fuck did she just say? I'm like, hold on, rewind.
Sometimes I'm always like, fuck, am I gonna say this right now? Like, do we really open this can of worms? But I'm like, it's just like, it's something that happened in my life. I'm not gonna try to hide it. Let's pick up and move on.
Yeah, I mean,
there was an interview about it. My mom is just the person who doesn't like that I talk about it. That's the only person who is like, she even told me like, oh, I read over your interview. Like, why would you bring that up? And I'm like, because I was asked. Like, why does it matter?
I mean, like, if people could saw my face, like when you were like telling this, like I had like this look on my face, like, what? Like,
damn it! I wish you and I were Skyping like video call right now.
Dude, it would be like like my fucking facial expressions would have been like, what? Like, she just told me she's reading a bunch of like Stephen King books. Like, is she telling me real shit, or is like the fucking weed just that goddamn good that she's that creative of like having this weird twisted fucking tale?
Because no, this is like that's really what's happened in my life. It still is a thing. I mean, and the reason, like, I also kind of giggle around it, as you can tell, or like, and I'm not making a joke of it, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm a nervous laugher, so I do have that in me a lot. But I'm very open about it. I talk to it with a lot of people. It's a thing that happened in my life. You just pick up and move on. There's nothing you can do to change it.
Well, hands down has to be one of the most, and I'm sorry to say this, one of the most bizarre stories that I've ever had on my podcast. And the fact that you were so open about it and so like telling it like it's like such a not normal thing, but like it's just a simple thing to talk about. I'm like,
right. I used to also tell my mom, like, I am in the porn industry, like people eat those stories up. They love to hear them. Why wouldn't I try to sell that?
I'm sure there's somebody that's going to be listening to this. They're like, oh, that was so fucking hot. And then like,
right.
I'm sorry.
There's always is. People talk about it all the time.
Again, like we going back into podcasts saying about like, you just do what you feel like doing, feel like loving, whatever you love to do and everything. But like, that still doesn't mean that I'm not going to have my opinion on it. Like, to me, that's just fucking weird and creepy that somebody out there is getting their jollies off to that fucking story. But to each their own.
To each his own. Yeah, to each their own. Exactly.
That's not my thing. I'm just
everyone has their kinks. There's a kink for everything.
But I guess, I mean, just to kind of like forward move forward from this, like my questions that
Segue.
my segue questions that I had lined up here for you, is like, what do you enjoy about being in the business? I mean, other than the money.
I enjoy that it has, like we've talked about, brought me out so much as a sexual person. I have found out so many things about myself that I probably never would have found out throughout the industry. I definitely think it's made me a stronger, like, especially in my mental state, and also like more self-confident than I've ever been. But my favorite things to do, like in film, are definitely bondage. I am what they call a rope slut. So I don't like pain much. I mean, I love bruises if I'm allowed to have them. Like, quarantine would be the perfect time to have someone come slap the shit out of me. But I hate bamboo sticks, caning and shit. I hate the pain. I hate stinging pain. I like thuddy pain. So like punching in my chest, because I love pressure on my chest. Spanking on my butt, punching of the butt, but that's kind of like the most I can do with pain. But yeah, like kinky bondage stuff like that is my favorite to do. I love being choked.
Like
having my hair pulled.
You said it best. We really should have done a video Skype on this, because I'm just like, we did like I'm loving the podcast, I'm loving the flow, and I'm loving the personality and character and everything. But I'm like, we got to a point now where it's like the facial expressions, like I said, would just be priceless right now. Like the shit that
Yes.
my reactions to everything you're saying right now is like, what the fuck?
This tiny little innocent girl.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about the podcast is, again, as we went into about how it shows a personal side of you. Like,
yeah,
I didn't know I was gonna get this personal in the first podcast. Like, I'm like, oh my god, I feel like this should be like a fucking mini series at this point. But
my life should be a movie, kind of.
Yeah, it really should. Like, I've never done a video Skype for podcasting, but you may be the first that I have to do that with in the future.
That is so funny.
You might be the first guest that we do that with. So fan questions. So clearly, like, a lot of fans like say, what is relationships like in the industry?
Oh God, it's kind of hard for you to ask me that question, because
knowing what I know now, I'm like,
yeah,
like, the poor business seems so juvenile compared to everything else this girl's fucking been through. Like,
I'm at the point in my life where I don't want a relationship right now. Like, okay, I'm human, and we all crave that connection and that love and the touch, and you know what I mean? Like, that bond that you have with another person. But because of everything I've been through, not just with my stepfather, but with exes, with exes, and then obviously I just got out of the 3.5 year long relationship. Like, I'm just at the point in my life where I need to be okay on my own and really figure out myself, then try and bring somebody else into my life as well. It's just not fair to them. And like, there have been people that I have ran into this industry that I've been like, oh my God, I like them a lot. But it's like, I have to really sit myself down and really think about it. And the last time I thought about it, even my mom was like, ew, is this your boyfriend? Because he stayed at my house. I was like, no, he's not my boyfriend. And I won't lie to you. Like, I thought about it to myself, but like, I can't do a relationship. You cannot have jealousy being in this industry if you're going to date a performer, or if the person dating you isn't a performer, but you are. There cannot be jealousy. And I know myself way too much that it would just be too hard for me to get over that. And it's just not what I want. It's not a stress that I want. I would be spending more time being mad and constantly like obsessing over this person for no reason when I shouldn't be. Relationships should not be fucking hard, and we make them so hard for no reason. And I just can't do that right now. I don't want to do that.
So, I mean, if you wanted to do that, like, guys want to know, like, what type of guys are you attracted to?
If it were something I would want to get into, the person definitely has to have like a really good personality. We have to be able to joke and have fun and be spontaneous together. Like, I'd have to have someone who likes being adventurous, because I love going on hikes. I don't know, someone who's not like controlling. I can't fucking stand that shit. But I won't lie, I'm also a person who likes taller people that are like attractive. Besides the personality and being kind and caring and all of those amazing traits. But
Now, how tall are you?
I'm 5'3".
Okay. Because there's
So
going to be guys that
obviously
are
he
going
doesn't
to
have to be
DM
too
me.
tall, but like be taller than me.
Yeah, there's like you say like tall guys. I'm like, all right, so guys are going to be tweeting me and be like, well, how tall is she?
Yeah.
I'm 5'7". Do I qualify? And I'm like, we'll find out.
Ay, ay, ay.
Um, Another question
But
someone
yeah.
asked, they want to know what is your nationality?
What is my nationality? I want to know why people ask that. And I always want to ask the people who ask me, like, what do you think I am? I've had someone ask me that, and when I was like, what do you think I am? They're like, honestly, I couldn't tell you. Like, your look is just so different. I am definitely a mutt. I have a lot of different things in me, but the things that I know I have the most of are Irish, Finnish, English, and Welsh.
Okay.
And Irish and Finnish are the two I know I have the most of. I
You do
have
have a
family
look.
that live in Finland.
Yeah, I mean, you have a look that people, can. I mean, personally, I looked and I was just like, okay, like clearly there's like some kind of different makeup there that's not, so obvious. And I guess that's why fans always ask you that question, because you just
Yeah.
have a look that's just not a common look, which is
Right.
cool because it's not, you have a unique look that nobody else can say they have. So I guess that's why people ask that.
Sometimes I feel like it works against me. It's kind of half and half. People will be like, no, that works so well. Like, you don't look like a typical porn girl. And then, like, other people are just kind of like, to me, I think it works against me just because sometimes, like, this is where I do have, a mental thing with myself where I'm just like, I look different than anyone else. And they, like, no one wants to hire me. I just don't look like other girls. Mm-hmm. But then I'm like, I need to stop thinking that way because obviously you can't differentiate yourself with somebody else. And I do have a very different weird look. I get it.
Well, I wouldn't say weird, but it's definitely different that people, are attracted to something different. So what you may think where people are like, oh, I don't look like this person, I don't look like that person. There might be somebody out there that's like, thank God she doesn't look like everybody else,
Yeah. Yeah, I like to use it like the girlfriend experience type thing. Like I feel like I'm very good for that.
Okay. You're good for that, but don't want to be that.
I know, isn't that crazy? I like playing the role. I really do. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like we all crave that attention, but I don't want it. It's so much stress. And I hate fighting. And honestly, like I need a lot of trust with someone. It's very hard for me to gain someone's trust. Trust in like having a bond like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, people want to know, what do you still want to do in the business? Like a lot of people who get into business are like, oh, I've already accomplished everything I want to do, and fantasies that I've had. Like, do you still have like a goal or like a bucket list of things you want to do?
Heck yeah. There's people I want to shoot with. I haven't done like boy girl. Mm-hmm. The closest I've gotten to a boy girl, which means two guys and one girl, is my Brazzers debut, and it wasn't even a real boy girl. I had sex with one guy, and then I was a little hoe and had sex with the other guy in the same scene. But it like wasn't together, so I need to do that. I also want to do a blow bang, which is just like a bunch of guys around you, and you just suck a bunch of dicks. And then I still need an orgy. I haven't done an orgy ever in my life. It's not a goal for me, but it's a goal for other people that want me to do it, which is anal, but I don't really give a shit about that. Mm-hmm.
Unless not it's paying. If they write a nice little check, then it becomes interesting.
I'll see maybe one day, and a lot of people are like, oh my God, you'll love it once you do it, but it's just like really hard for me to want to do it.
Now, let me ask, so obviously you're very open and have this wild like kinky side and everything, but like do you have sex like outside of the industry? I mean, clearly you don't want relationships, but is it something that you still do?
It's very, very rare. I will not lie to you. It's very rare for me to have sex outside of the industry. One, because we have to get tested every 14 days. it scares me to honestly have sex with other people because I know other people don't get tested. Like civilians rarely ever get tested, and no matter how much they want to say, because there is one dude right now that I have been seeing outside of the industry, and I've even told him, like, I need you to go get tested for me just out of my own sanity, is like, obviously I know I'm going to get tested and see if you had it, but still, like, why put myself through that when you could just fucking go get tested? And he'll say to me, like, oh, well, I don't even really sleep with people, and I'm very selective with who I sleep with. Well, it does not matter how clean you think that other person is. They may not be the most cleanliest person you thought they were. So that's just where I'm like, so that's where it's hard for me, because my work is very important to me. It's how I make my money. And obviously my body is the only way to get that. So if you make me pop dirty, now I'm out of work for a week. I just don't want to risk that.
Now, when you're shooting in a business, do you are your desires and your sexual needs met through that, or like I guess that's why I'm asking, like, do you have sex outside of the business? Because
Right. Sometimes your needs aren't met.
yeah,
Now, sometimes my sex outside of the business is people already in the industry. So that's where it's like becomes easier because I know they get tested also.
okay,
So that's sometimes how I fill my void if I need to, if my void hasn't been met. But yeah, there are times where, like, no, this industry does not, being on set is not always the most pleasurable. Sometimes I leave and being on set made me horny because they didn't get me to where I needed. And then I'm like, fuck, now what do I do?
first the
Now
parties, then the after
I'm being
party.
sent home horny. What the fuck is this? And so sometimes, like, you don't always get it met, but there are some days where I leave and I'm like, God damn, that was good.
Now, have you ever felt like you say you leave not feeling satisfied, and then other people that work in the industry, you guys go wherever to fulfill that satisfaction. Have you ever had
Mm-hmm.
people like try to take advantage of that and be like, well, you did this for free, outside of the set, why can't you do this for us here on set? Have you ever like had any hurdles that you had to go through where people just didn't want to, or try to take advantage?
I will say I have been very lucky in this industry to have people not really take advantage. Honestly, I would say more like people outside the industry try to take more advantage of me than people in the industry. And so that's where it's like, I guess some people might be confused by that. But like people outside the industry, like one person that I have slept with before, like right before I got in the industry, the other day we were talking to each other, just kind of catching up, and he was like, well, I just know that I can get it for free. And it's like, no, like now it makes me never want to see you again, because that's kind of fucked up. Like, oh, I don't need to pay for your OnlyFans or any of your content because I know you and I could just end up fucking for free. And it's like, okay, now I never want to talk to you again. But people in the industry aren't really like that. I mean, there handfuls. People do have hurdles they go through, but like I said, I just feel like in my journey so far, I've been very blessed not to.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the questions that I always get,
Oh
like what celebrity crushes do you have? I feel like I ask this question. I feel like it's
yeah,
like a stock question for every
I
podcast. But like,
know.
who do you admire? You know,
Oh, it's so hard for me to choose who my favorites are because there's a lot of hot people out there. Um,
there's listeners and followers that are hoping that you mention the name of somebody and are going to try to
uh-oh.
convince themselves that they look like that person.
Oh, of
I think that's
course.
why people ask this question. There's
That's
somebody out there
true.
that thinks they look like such and such, or been told they look like such and such. So they're like, God, please let her
Ooh,
say I look like X, Y, and Z.
true. I've never thought about it that way. I'd have to say Zac Efron is someone who comes to mind instantly every single time
Okay.
because he is fucking gorgeous and adventurous as fuck.
Okay. What about in the industry? Anybody that's in the industry that you're a fan of, and you're like, oh, I gotta work with that person.
Oh my God, yes. I say this person every single time I'm on a podcast. I'm honestly like, I feel like they might start thinking I'm obsessed with them because I swear to God, I say it in every podcast that I'm in. But Small Hands and Joanna Angel, I want to work with them so bad. Like, so fucking bad. It's not a joke. I've come up with a whole scenario inside my head, and I said it on one before, and so I'm like, please pick me.
And it's funny because we've had her on the podcast before, and like she's just unbelievable. Like,
I love her. I love her so much. She's an amazing person.
and the fact that she's like done so much, like, is, you know.
That's what I'm saying. She's such a boss woman. I'm like, I hardly even, and this is where it gets a little creepier, because I'm like, I hardly even, like, I've never met her in person, so I don't know really who she is as a person. I've never really talked to her, and I'm not going to lie, like, I don't really listen to any podcast she's in, but I just know how much she has done and how much she has accomplished in her life, and it's just, it blows my mind, and she's a straight boss woman, and that's awesome.
Well, I'll have to send you the link to the podcast that she did with us,
Yeah.
because she actually did the podcast. It was funny because she was doing it. She was, I can't remember all the details, but she was definitely visiting her parents because she's originally from the New Jersey area. Her parents live in New Jersey, which is not too far from us. And when she was calling in, she's like, I'm literally in like my parents' house right now. Like my parents are like walking around the house. And she's doing this podcast like in a room, like her old room or something. She's like closing the door. And I'm like, we're talking about porn and sex, and like her mom could be walking by with like a laundry basket or something. It's just,
that is so
just kind of added to the like the wild and kinkiness of this whole thing. Like you just felt like that naughty, like we're hiding this podcast from people that are in the house, you know?
Right. That is so funny. Yeah, so, with them, I really want to work with them so bad. There's a few others too, but they're the top of my list for sure.
Gotcha. And I want everybody to know, because if they've lasted this long through the podcast, like I want to make sure we let everybody know where they can contact or be in connection with you online through your OnlyFans, like social medias. Like clearly we want you to get something out of this as well. We want people to, you know, become fans.
Yeah, for sure. My OnlyFans is pretty much all my social media, and my OnlyFans is Katie Kush XX. The only thing that's different is like my Instagram is Katie Kush XX2 because the first one was deleted. So yeah, if you want to search me on anything, search me on Pornhub. On my website itself is katiekushxx.com. That's the way to find me.
Now, is there anything else you want the fans to know? Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to inform them of? Like, I feel like at this point, like, there's not anything you're going to tell me that's going to, like, knock me on my ass. I'm already, like, laid out on the ground. Like, I'm prepared for anything that you're about to say. But you have an open mic and an open floor. So is there anything you want the fans to know? Because I've already made the decision that I'm going to bring you back on the podcast again, because I feel like there's so much more shit that, like, we got to strip away layer by layer that, you know, I just don't think everybody can take it in all in one session.
I know. Here. I'm like, I could talk forever, honestly. But for sure, honestly, no, I don't really have anything just on the top of my mind. That's pretty much all.
Well, definitely follow her on like her OnlyFans and her social medias.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been awesome talking to you, and it's just crazy when you start talking and like you said, you could talk forever. And I'm looking at the timer on this, and like we've already talked for over 2 hours.
I know.
And I'm like, holy shit! Like people ask me all the time when they come on a podcast. They're like, "Well, how long is it?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't rush people, but I definitely don't keep people on longer than what they want to be on. You know, it's kind of like if you feel like keep on talking, like I'm fine as long as I don't have anything scheduled or plans. Like I'm not going to tell you to get the fuck off, and I'm not going to tell you.
This is what the quarantine does to us. Look how bored we are. That's what I was thinking earlier when I was just like telling you my whole life story. I was like, goddamn, the quarantine has me just talking people's heads off right now.
Like I said, I really feel like this is going to be a first for MMB Radio. This is going to turn into a fucking mini series, like the Katie Kush mini series, you know, on MMB Radio. But it's been awesome talking to you, and like I said, I'm just like I need to decompose after this. Like I don't know what the fuck I need to do. I'm like, do I go lay down? Do I get a shower?
Huddle in a ball and just rock myself for a little bit.
Do I get in a fetal position? Do I look at her OnlyFans? Like I don't know. Like I really need to like just go outside and just fucking breathe and be like, what the fuck did I just do for the last 2
Get some fresh
hours?
air. I'm weak. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me on, and thank you for letting me just open up and talk my life away for a little bit.
Seriously, like it was not something like when I was preparing for this, and I'm just like so happy that we had you on, because it was some cool, interesting stories, and
Yeah.
some of them, again, I'm sure you get all kinds of feedback from it, but again, if this is helping somebody, or if it's gained you more fans, or got me more haters,
Yeah, you're welcome.
it's cool either way, but we really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. And like I said, I'm already making note. When we finally start doing video podcasting and we get that all set up, you're going to be my first guest on the video podcasting. But we are going to bring you back on sometime soon. Like, I don't know, like I feel like your story may be changing again next week. Like, I just feel like you just live an adventurous life that's like, oh my god, she's gonna have some other wild fucking story next week that
I'm telling you, my life is fucking weird.
To be continued.
Weird shit happens to me. Weird people come up to me, so it's fine. It's all right. If anyone really does want to reach out and talk to me, whether it's about what I talked about on the podcast or not, any questions they have, hit me up. OnlyFans, anything like that. So yeah,
I feel like we should have like a cliffhanger or something. It's like, but we never got to talk about that time when you were with your, your uncle. Remember that time and it's just like people are like, whoa, what the fuck? What was that about? Like, what happened with that? Sorry, that's on the next podcast.
Gotta go to part 2.
Yeah, like you can't even make this shit up.
No, you can't.
But it was awesome talking to you, and again, hopefully much success to you. And
thank you.
Yeah, we hope to hear from you soon.
Yes, same. You have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
No problem. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Katie Kush, and you're listening to Mix Masta B on MMB Radio.